was just going to refresh you. We had our test on Thursday over 1.1 to 1.6. So we are still in Unit 1, but Unit 1 was really long. So we split it up. We did the 1A test, okay? And then y'all continued working on your ALEX initial knowledge check. Those of you who finished that were working in your PI on ALEX. If you did not finish the initial knowledge check in ALEX, I need your side conversations to stop. I am not going to yell over y'all. Stop talking when I'm talking. Thank you. If you have not finished the ALEX initial knowledge check, you still can go do that. I updated grades this morning in Skyward. So after we finish today's notes, y'all will have time to go log into your Skyward and see where you stand and what you're missing. But that ALEX initial knowledge check is just a completion grade. It's that you finished it. So you can still go, if you have a 0 for that, it's because you haven't finished it yet. You can still go log in on your own time and get that finished later, okay? But so today, so we had our 3-day weekend. Hopefully you enjoyed your day off yesterday. Today we're going to pick up where we left off in Unit 1. So we're going to be doing 1.7. And then I've gone ahead and filled in through 111. Tentatively, I think our test would fall next Friday. But I didn't put it in here yet because that could change. It'll kind of depend on how we get through these next sections. Okay, but we're going to do 1.7 notes today, and you're going to have some practice when we're done. So everybody should turn in their new notes packet to 1.7, that first page. Okay, our goal today is to be able to isolate a variable on one side of an equation to solve for the variable. Okay, so we're working with equations that have a variable on both sides. So our x, or whatever the variable is on the left and the right. Okay, so the process that we're going to use solve when that's the case, we are always going to stop the side conversations. We'll get through this much faster if I don't have to stop and tell y'all to stop talking every 2 minutes. Okay, the first thing we always need to do is get rid of any parentheses by distributing if necessary. That will not always be necessary. Sometimes there will be parentheses, sometimes there won't. Okay, so if you, for instance, if you look down at some of these examples below, these first couple, there's no parentheses, okay, on any of these on the front. Okay, so that step 1 isn't going to come into play here on the front. Okay, it will, if you flip over to the back, you'll see some parentheses. We'll have to take care of that then. Okay, but sometimes there will be parentheses and you need to distribute first, if that's the case. Okay, once you do that, or if there are none, then you're looking to combine any like terms. Okay, so combine like terms on both sides of the equation. Okay, and I say on each side, it's each side separately. So we have to look on the left side and combine if needed, look on the right side and combine if needed. Okay, so we have to do that to each side separately. Once you combine like terms, then you're ready to start moving terms. Okay, so the first thing you move is the variable. Okay, and we move the smallest variable. You can move either, but it's usually easiest in your solving process to move the smallest variable to the other side. And then we're going to combine those on whichever side that is. Okay. Once you've gotten the variables to one side, then you want to move your constant. Remember, the constant is the number that doesn't have a letter attached. Okay. So no variable, just a number. We're going to move those away from the variable term. Okay. So to the other side. And then last but not least, if you've gotten your variable term isolated, you need to sometimes get rid of a coefficient in front of it. There's a number attached to your variable. We're going to isolate the variable by undoing the multiplication or division, okay, whatever it is. Okay, so those last three, we're actually, go away. We're actually moving terms here. When we do any of this moving, we are using opposite operations. Oops. Okay, so opposite operation to move things across the equation. Okay, so we're going to start somewhat basic in these first couple. So I'm going to split the left and the right. When I look, there is no parentheses, so I don't need to distribute. There's nothing to combine on the left. We've got a variable term and a constant. Those don't go together. Same thing on the right, nothing to combine. So in this one, I'm jumping in at step 3. I'm going to move the smallest variable term. So I've got 4K and I've got 2K. Which one is smaller? So that's the one I want to move. And remember, we move by opposite. So the opposite of positive 2 is negative 2. So I'm subtracting 2K because what you do to one side, you do to the other. So it eliminates it from the right side. And 4K minus 2K is positive 2K. And we've still got that plus 6. And then over here, we've just got 4. So then step 4, we're going to move the constant. Okay, so now that we've isolated or got the variable on one side, we want to move the constants to the other side. Okay, so the opposite of plus 6 is minus 6. Okay, opposite operation is how I move terms across that line, across that equals. So on the left, I'm left with 2K, and on the right, that comes out to negative 2. And then last but not least, I'm going to isolate the variable by undoing this multiplication or division in front. Okay, this coefficient's got to go. So 2 is being multiplied by K. The opposite is to divide. So I'm going to get rid of that 2 by dividing. And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Okay, and then hopefully you remember any number divided by itself is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, but we've got a negative divided by a positive, so it comes out negative 1. Okay, let's try one more basic. Okay, we've got a t term and a constant, nothing to combine, no parentheses. T term and a constant, nothing to combine, no parentheses. So I'm ready to jump into moving. Negative 3t is smaller than 4t. Okay, the more negative, that means the smaller it is. So I'm going to add 3t to both sides. Now here, that negative stays with this 3 that's left on the left. Okay, that becomes 7t plus 11. Christian, stop talking. All right, now we're going to move the constant to the other side. So we're going to subtract 11. Okay, now these we're going to combine. We have negative 3, we're subtracting 11. That leaves us with negative 14 equals 7t. And then last but not least, we got to get rid of that coefficient, so we're going to divide. And that leaves us with negative 2. Y'all feel okay with the basic ones? We didn't have to do step 1 or 2 on either of these because there was no parentheses and no like terms to combine on either side. We jumped straight into the moving. So those were a little bit more basic for having a variable on both sides. Now 3 and 4 are going to be a little tougher because what do they have? What type of numbers do you see in 3 and 4 that were not in 1 and 2? fractions. Okay, so we're going to follow the same process, but fractions just make things more complicated because you have to remember how to add and subtract and multiply and divide fractions. Okay, so it's just an extra thing to remember. Okay, so I'm going to separate the left and the right. Now, on the left, no parentheses, nothing to combine. On the right, no parentheses, nothing to combine. So again, I'm going to jump in with step 3, which is to move the smallest variable. So I've got 1/2 A and -3/2 A. Okay, some people want to say 1/2 is smaller than 3/2, but this is -3/2. So this is actually a lower value. Okay, so I'm going to move it by addition. I'm going to add 3/2 A to both sides. Now, if you need to come here in the middle and figure out your fractions, you're doing 1/2 plus 3/2. What does that give you? No? When we are adding fractions, you have to have a common denominator, which we do. They're both a base 2. So we just add the numerator. So what's our numerator? 4. Okay, so 1 plus 3 in the numerator is 4. So we've got 4/2. And then we can reduce that. So 4/2 is 2. Or if you are not confident or comfortable dealing with the fractions, you can change them to decimals. So 1/2 is the same thing as 0.5. Okay, 3/2 is the same thing as 1.5. So if you did 1/2 plus 1.5, that would equal 2. So whether you deal with it as fractions or decimals, either way you get 2. Do y'all agree? So we've got 2A, and then the -8 is still here, and that's equal to 6. So now I'm going to get the constant moved to the other side by opposite operation. So the opposite of -8 is to add 8. And I'm left with 2A equals 14. Good. I divide out that coefficient, which leaves me with A equals 7. Okay, so the same steps as 1 and 2, but we had to deal with fractions or decimals there when combining our variables. Okay, so let's try that working with the fractions one more time over here. In number 4, there's nothing to combine on the left or the right, no parentheses, so I'm ready to move things. If there is no number in front of your variable, what is understood here in front? If there's no number here in front of X, what is it? What's the imaginary number here? A 1. It's an understood 1. Okay, so this is 1x, and on the left, it's -3/5 x. So -3/5 is smaller than 1. So that is the smaller number, so I'm going to move it by adding. So I'm going to add 3/5 x, which on the left is going to leave me with 6. Now, again, if you need to come off to the side and work with your fractions, you can. You've got to do 1 plus 3/5. You can change that 3/5 to a decimal. So, oops. So you could say 1 plus 0.6, which is 1.6. Or you could change that 1 to a fraction. 1 is the same thing as 5/5. And if I do that, I have the same. I need your conversations to stop, please. You are distracting me or distracting the people around you. Please stop talking. Yes. All right, so I changed the 1 to a 5/5. And now it's got a common denominator with 3/5. So that can be written as 8/5, or you could change it to 1.6. Do y'all like doing the 8/5 or the 1.6? 8/5. Okay, so we've got 8/5 x, and then we still have that minus 10. So now we've got the variables to one side. We're ready to move the constant, which is going to be by adding 10 to both sides. Now this time, to get rid of our coefficient, our fraction is our coefficient. So instead of over here, we were able to just divide by 2. Here, we can do it in 2 steps. We can multiply the 5 over. Okay, that gets rid of this 5 in the denominator. Okay, and 16 times 5 is 80. And then you can get rid of the 8 by dividing. So that gives me 10. Okay, so when I have a fraction coefficient, I can multiply the denominator over and then divide the numerator over. Okay, because I can only do one operation at a time in my 4-function calculator. That's probably your better bet than trying to multiply by the reciprocal and take care of the fraction all in one step. Let's just break it down into 2 steps to make our lives easier. Now, sometimes your question may not simply be asking for the variable. Okay, so it says if you're solving for a multiple of the variable, you might be able to stop before multiplying or dividing, or you can solve for the variable and then substitute the value in and find the answer. Okay, so they're not asking us to find C. What are they asking us to find? What is it? Wants 2C. Okay, so once we find C, we're going to have to multiply it by 2. We're going to have to solve for the variable and then substitute the value in and find the answer. Okay, so we're going to treat this the same to start by separating the left and right. Now there are no parentheses, so no distribution, but there are like terms over here. I've got a 4C and a negative 8C that I need to combine. So that is negative 4C. And then I've still got the minus 2 and the 5C plus 16. Okay. Then I'm ready to move terms across. So I've got 5C and negative 4C. So the smaller variable is negative 4C. Sorry, I don't know why that zoomed out so much. Okay, so the opposite of negative 4C is going to be to add 4C. So I'm going to have 9C plus 16 equals negative 2. Now I'm going to move my constant, which is the 16, by subtraction. And then I'm ready to divide out my coefficient. So my coefficient is the 9. What is a negative divided by a positive? Negative. And 18 divided by 9 is 2. Oh, wait, I'm not boxing it in. That's not my answer. Don't box it in. They didn't ask for C. They asked for 2C. So now I have to take this and plug it in there. Okay, so 2 times negative 2 would be negative 4. So my answer is negative 4. So pay attention to what they're asking you to solve for. If it's a multiple of a variable, you've got to do that extra step of substitution at the end and calculating that. All right, let's flip it over to the back and try that. On the back, we're going to be doing the same thing where they're asking for a multiple of the variable, but now we've got some parentheses. We didn't have any parentheses on the front, so this is going to have us starting with our distribution step, okay? And then at the end, we are asked to find 5t at the end. So on the left side, I have parentheses. So this -2 has to be distributed. So that's going to become -2t plus 8. The rest of the equation stays as is. And there's no parentheses on the right, so no distribution over there. Okay, so now I look to see, okay, can I combine any like terms? And I can. I've got a 9 and an 8 on the left side that I can combine. So this is going to become -2t plus 17 equals 4t plus 1. Now I'm to like number 1 and 2 on the front. Okay, now it's to like where we're just moving terms across. So the -2t is the smaller variable, so I'm going to move that by addition, which leaves us with 17 equals 6t plus 1. So then I've got the constant to move across the equation to the other side, so I'm going to subtract that. And then I've got the coefficient that needs to be divided out. So again, I've got a fraction here. This one does not divide evenly. This is actually a repeating decimal, so I'm going to leave it as a fraction. I'm going to say 16 over 6 reduces to 8 over 3. So I'm going to keep it there, and I have to now take that and plug it in for t up there. So I need to do 5 times 8/3. 5 times 8 is 40. So that's 40/3. That does not reduce either. You feel okay about that? All right, last one together, and then I'm going to give you some to practice on your own, okay, with your group and on your own. Okay, let's do one more that has some parentheses. Now this one has parentheses on both sides of the equation. So when we look at number 7, you may go back up? Okay. Good. All right, let's go try 7. I'll come back up to it if you need more time with that one in a minute. Okay, but let's go ahead and try 7. I've separated the left and right. Now, at the end, I know I'm looking for 3k. Okay, so I'm going to have to multiply by 3 at the end. I'm not going to forget that. Now, I do have parentheses on both sides. Got a set of parentheses here. So this is a +7 that needs to be distributed. And this one is a +3 that needs to be distributed. So over here, that's -21k plus 35 for the distribution. And here it's 30 minus 18k for the distribution. Everything else in the equation stays the same. That 3 is still in front, and this +7 is still at the end. Okay, I did my distribution. Now I'm going to combine like terms separately on the left I can combine the 3 and the 35. So I've got negative 21K plus 38. And on the right, I can combine the 30 and the 7. So I've got negative 18K plus 37. Now it looks like what we were doing on the front, where I'm ready to move a variable. Now the smaller is negative 21 because that's more negative than negative 18. So I'm going to add the 21K over, which is going to leave me with 3K plus 37 on the right and 38 on the left. So then I'm ready to move that constant, that 37 by subtraction. And then I'm ready to get rid of the coefficient of 3 by dividing. 1 divided by 3 is a repeating decimal. We're going to leave it as a fraction. But remember, I have to take it. I have to take that and plug it in for K up here. So I'm doing 3 times 1/3, which comes out to 1. Okay, 1/3 of 3, or 1/3 times 3. Okay, that comes out to 1. All right, I'm going to pass out the practice for this. We've got close to 20 minutes left. We've got 17 minutes for y'all to work on this in class. I had people last class finish. If you don't finish, you can work on it in cat tracks tomorrow or at home tonight. It's going to just be due. I'm going to do the same thing as last week, and the practice is just going to be due by the end of the week, by Friday. So all the practice we get today, tomorrow, Thursday, everything's just going to be due by Friday. But if you want to knock this one out and not have to worry about it, you can go ahead and knock it out and turn it in. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this on the screen for you to see. Where? Oh, it's here. Okay, we're only going to do a certain number. So I'm going to pass this out and y'all can circle these numbers on the front side, and then I'll switch over to the back for you to see on the back which ones. So everybody has one in front of them. You're doing 2, 4, 7, 9. So mark 2, 4, 7, 9. And then flip over to the back. On the back, you're going to do 12, 14, 15, 17. Okay, so make sure you have the correct ones marked. You're only doing 4 on each side, so 8 total problems. Okay, you have the rest of class to work on this. You can discuss with your group members. You can ask me questions. If you get it finished, go ahead and turn it in the top tray in the back. If you don't, you have till Friday to get it finished. Okay, so plenty of time.